All right, looks like we have people trickling in now, and I'm just going to give our group another minute or two to before we get started. Thank you all very much for joining us so far. All right, I do want to be respectful of everybody's time, so I'll get started in about 1 minute. All right, let's get started. Hello, everybody. My name is Jose Rodriguez. I'm a water use efficiency specialist at the Alameda County Water District. I'll be co-hosting for ACWD today along with Jessica Swenson.
Hi, I'm Jessica Swenson. I'm also one of the water use efficiency specialists at Alameda County Water District, and I will be in the chat answering any questions you might have throughout this presentation.
Thank you all for joining us today for our second Fall 2025 workshop in partnership with the Bay Area Water Supply and Conservation Agency, BOSCA, for our topic, Rain Barrels and Rain Gardens. Let's go over the logistics of today's webinar before we begin. We will start with a brief background on ACWD and BOSCA, followed by a rainwater harvesting presentation from our special guest presenter, Chris Corvetti. And we'll have time for questions after the presentation in our Q&A session. All attendees in today's Zoom webinar are muted by default, but we do encourage you to enter any questions you have by using the Q&A function at the bottom of your screen. You may also use the raise hand option in the Q&A session at the end of the webinar if you'd like to verbally ask a question. This webinar is being recorded and will be provided to all our registered participants. It is the mission of the Alameda County Water District to provide a reliable supply of high quality water at a reasonable price to our customers. Founded in 1914, ACWD has provided water to the 105 square mile area of Fremont, Newark, and Union City for over 100 years. With approximately 344,000 customers and 87,000 water service connections, we are fortunate to have a diverse water supply portfolio with 3 different sources that are both local and imported. 40% of our water supply is imported from the State Water Project. Another 40 comes from local Alameda Creek watershed runoff that's used to recharge our Niles Cone groundwater basin. And the remaining 20% is purchased from the San Francisco PUC. Having this diversified portfolio gives us a lot of flexibility in how we plan for our water use, optimize costs, and how we can respond to operational challenges in times of drought. Again, ACWD serves the cities of Fremont, Newark, and Union City. So if you're not in one of these cities, be sure to check your water bill to see who your water provider is, as these rebate programs that I'm going to talk about right now are specific to ACWD. ACWD offers several water use efficiency programs that we encourage our residential customers to take advantage of. We have free water conservation kits and free water leak kits that can be delivered directly to your home. There is our Lawn Be Gone rebate program that offers $2 per square foot up to $3,000 to replace some or all of your water-thirsty lawn with water-efficient landscaping. With a minimum lawn replacement area of only 200 square feet, this is one of our most popular rebate programs. Please check it out after our webinar. There is a rain barrel rebate. I'll be sharing more details on this one shortly. Our rebate for our weather-based irrigation controllers, also known as smart irrigation controllers, is also popular. These controllers can automatically adjust landscape irrigation systems watering schedule based on actual local weather information. We have an irrigation hardware rebate program that offers up to $5 for each high efficiency sprinkler nozzle, up to $10 for each approved spray body, and up to $30 for each large rotor that you install. If you want to replace broken sprinkler heads or upgrade the sprinklers in your irrigation system for water efficiency, this rebate can help you. It can cover most of the irrigation hardware costs. ACWD has the Energy and Water Savings Assistance Direct Install Program for income qualified residents, as well as other water efficiency programs and resources that are offered to our customers. Please visit acwd.org/rebates to learn more. Today, we are going to learn how preparing for the rainy season by installing a rain barrel can save water and protect our local creeks. And why not? You can have some fun and decorate your rain barrels for the holidays, like our spooky Frankenstein's monster here, sold separately. Our rain barrel rebate allows ACWD residential customers to receive up to $50 per rain barrel, up to 2 rain barrels for a $100 maximum rebate. You can buy a rain barrel that holds a minimum 50 gallons, provide photos of the installed rain barrel on a flat, even surface with screening for vector and debris control, submit a copy of the receipt that shows the price, the quantity, and the size of the barrels for the rebate, and it will be processed. This rebate is retroactive, so you can purchase a qualified rain barrel and then apply for the rebate at bosca.dropletportal.com. Now, a little information about BOSCA. BOSCA represents 26 agencies that include cities, water districts, a water company, and a university that purchases water wholesale from the San Francisco Regional Water System. The BOSCA member agencies provide water to 1.8 million people and over 40,000 businesses and community organizations in Alameda, Santa Clara, and San Mateo counties. BOSCA's goal is to provide a high-quality water supply. A high-quality supply of water at a fair price. BOSCA and its member agencies are providing several in-person workshops and online webinars this fall. You can see some of the remaining topics here. So if you're interested in attending classes that cover edible gardening, care for succulents and native plants, lawn replacement options, or more on rain barrels and rain gardens, please visit bosca.org/classes to register. Today, we're talking about rainwater harvesting and creating efficient outdoor water use. Outdoor water use represents the single largest untapped opportunity for water conservation in the Bosque service area. And outdoor water use reduction through the use of water efficient plants and innovative techniques can help conserve water and ensure that the future water supply needs of our communities are met. And a quick disclaimer, please note that this presentation is general in nature and is not intended to be an exhaustive review of the subject matter. The information contained in this presentation does not necessarily reflect the policies of ACWD, Bosque, or its other member agencies. The presentation, instructor information, products, and materials are provided as a courtesy to our participants and are not endorsed by ACWD, Bosque, or its other member agencies. Okay, now a quick announcement regarding ACWD's 7th annual Water Clips Student Video Contest, where students from grades 6 through 12 can create a 30-second clip about how ACWD water influences, inspires, or supports one's physical health and wellness. Both individual and team entries are welcome. Students can win $500 and more prizes. For more information, please visit acwd.org/waterclips. And if you have any questions about ACWD's water use efficiency programs, please feel free to call or email us. We are happy to answer any questions you may have, provide suggestions about how to conserve water in your home, and walk you through our rebate application processes. And now a little bit about our instructor. Chris moved to California upon completion of 2 years of Peace Corps service in Mongolia, where she first experienced water scarcity. As a member of the Watershed Stewards AmeriCorps program, Chris delved into issues surrounding water conservation specific to the Bay Area. Since the end of her AmeriCorps service in 2017, Chris worked with numerous local nonprofits and municipalities to install rainwater harvesting systems throughout the Bay Area. And we are very excited to have her here today. And so, Chris, we turn it over to you.
Thank you so much. Very excited to be here tonight. So I have done actual installations, dozens of installations of both rain gardens and rain barrels throughout the Bay Area. A lot of the pictures I'm going to show today are from installations I've done, including this one here, which is installed at a middle school in the Bay Area. And we're just going to start off kind of with the why, and then we'll get into the how. So there are a lot of reasons to harvest rainwater and a lot of great ways that harvesting rainwater can help out your home and your local community. And also some pretty amazing ways that harvesting rainwater can actually improve the quality in our creeks and improve our natural habitat for our native creatures in the Bay Area. So one of the things that we don't really think about when we're talking about rainwater harvesting, we always think about our gardens and our house. We don't really think about what it can do for the overall quality of the water in our area. So I just want to touch on that briefly, and then we'll talk more about the details on how to install a system. So in a general rainstorm, we have the rain coming on all of our hardscape surfaces, and that rain runs into our storm drains. And while it's running down the streets and over these hardscape surfaces, it's picking up a lot of pollutants. And so then it hits our storm drains, carrying all those pollutants with it. And those storm drains don't have any filtration system, so they go straight into the bay. So it's a little bit different when we talk about storm drains than when we talk about our household water. The water inside our house actually goes through a wastewater treatment plant and comes out clean on the other side. but our storm drains don't get cleaned. So one of the ways that we can actually help clean the water in the storm drain is by getting less water going during those heavy rains and during those storm surges. And that's called slow it, spread it, and sink it. And this refers to slowing the stormwater down, allowing it to spread out, and allowing it to sink into the ground so it can refill the aquifer and percolate into our deep groundwater and come out clean into the stream by coming through the ground first. And that is, in that case, when it's sinking in, it's not picking up those pollutants. It gives us time to pick up trash and pick up things without it running down into the storm drains. So this is just another way to think about the rainwater harvesting and how it can help the overall ecosystem and not just our own house and our own community. Now, the next question I always get is a little bit more centered on the us and less on the nature. And that is there really enough rain? We live in the Bay Area. And the answer is yes, or I wouldn't have a job. But essentially, yes, there is definitely enough rain to harvest rainwater, and it can make a huge difference. Look at this rain garden in this picture. You can see during the dry season, it just looks like a nice little rocky garden. But in the wet season, it is helping prevent flooding in the driveway in the parking area, and it is creating a temporary ponding area in the rain garden to allow that water to soak into the ground. So that is a really great picture showing dry season, wet season of a rain garden. 1,000 square foot area can actually capture over 600 gallons of rainwater from just 1 inch of rain. So we're going to take another look at this equation and we're going to put in some numbers. So if we have that 1,000 square foot roof, and Alameda County gets a roughly 20 inches of rain a year, which is a lot less than the national average, but it's still more than I actually thought we got in the Bay Area. That's over 12,000 gallons of water that could potentially be harvested over a 1,000 square foot roof. It's a lot of water. And even in just a small storm where we get about half an inch of rain, that's over 300 gallons. So that's definitely worth harvesting and using in our gardens and keeping that water from flushing and filling and overpowering our storm drains. So you might say, well, I don't know if I have 1,000 square foot roof. I don't know how big my roof is. It's okay. It's really easy to measure. You don't have to get up on the roof. You don't have to figure out what angle your roof is at. You just measure from on the ground, a flat measurement from the point of the roof where it changes. So in this case, I'm thinking maybe a green pen is not the best color on a green background. Let's try purple. In this case, you would measure from the middle of the roof there to this corner. And that would be your one measurement. And then you would multiply that by the area that you want to the length of the front of the house. So if you wanted to only capture from this one downspout, you would just measure half of this area here. And then you would multiply those two lengths by each other to get that area. But if you wanted to capture your water from two downspouts simultaneously, either to run both downspouts into a rain garden or to run them into the same barrel system, or if you want to run them into separate barrel systems and run both barrels into the garden, you would calculate your whole roof area, which would be this dotted red line. And you would measure that the same way. You would measure on the ground this length from there, and then you would multiply it by this length here. So if, for example, we had this was 20 feet and this was 50 feet, we would have our 1,000 square foot roof. Okay. The next question I get a lot is about the roof types. People want to know if it's okay to install a rain barrel system on their roof, right? That's why we're here. Can I install it on my own home? And the answer is almost always yes. Most of these roof systems are wonderful for rainwater harvesting. There's a couple of roof types that you really don't want to harvest rainwater from, and that's going to be any sort of galvanized or untreated metal, because you're going to have those metal oxides, the rust, that's going to get into the system and concentrate. So you want to avoid anything like that. And if you have a flat roof that was built a long time ago, you want to make sure you get it tested and make sure it's not asbestos. A lot of the really old flat roofs were asbestos based, and we really don't want to be capturing rainwater off of that. But most flat roofs today are rubber based and they're completely fine. Most of the houses that I have seen throughout the Bay Area are ceramic or clay, they're asphalt shingles. I'm seeing a lot more of the rubber shingles and the cement roofs now. These are all really great for harvesting rainwater. When you get a new roof, however, you may want to disconnect the system for the first couple rainfalls and put an extra filter on, especially a new asphalt shingle roof. It's going to shed for the first couple of rainfalls, and you don't want to concentrate that into your tank. You want to make sure you're letting that filter out. And so putting a couple extra screens on can really help with that, and just cleaning that after every rainfall because the screens are going to fill up with little debris. But once it's set, the asphalt is actually inert and it's going to be fine. It's not going to get into your system. All rain barrel systems are going to be screened anyway. We're going to talk about that in a few minutes. So I'm going to head right into rain barrels. If you guys have any questions as I'm going along, there's going to be a lot of material here, and I know sometimes that can get a little overwhelming. Please don't hesitate to type into the Q&A, and I'll answer those questions as I'm going along. And we'll also have time at the end if you think of anything later on, but feel free to type your questions as I'm going along. So rain barrels are basically what they sound like. It's some form of a barrel that is used to capture rain. So you capture your roof runoff and you store it for later use. And we usually do that by connecting it to an existing downspout, which is usually connected to an existing gutter system. Rain barrels can eliminate or decrease the need for irrigating municipal water, which means that water that's safe for drinking and that potable water we can save and use for drinking and things that need potable water, and we can use our rain barrels for all of our landscaping. They can also reduce flooding, sewer overflows, and soil erosion around your home by minimizing the moisture around your building. And we've already seen how they can improve the water quality in creeks. And they're a great educational tool for kids and other residents to talk about water and to help people think a little bit more about water usage as you're using your water and where it's coming from. One of the big questions I get when concerned with rain barrels is, do I need a permit? This is a great question. For most of the systems, especially the systems you're going to be installing yourself, you do not need a permit. Specifically, if you're going to be plumbed fully exterior to a single family home and under 360 gallons, which is going to be most systems, you don't need a permit. If, however, you want more than 360 gallons, I'm going to show you some pictures of systems going up to 500 gallons later on. And if you decide, oh, I really love that 500-gallon system, that's exactly what I want on my house, then you can still do that without a permit, as long as you do not connect it to any electrical, you do not connect it to any makeup water supply, and you use only a drip irrigation system. So that means once you go above 360 gallons, you can't get out the hose and water with the hose. You're not going to be using watering cans. You're going to be on a drip irrigation system. If you do not meet any of those above conditions, you will likely need a permit, or you will need to research it more. Specifically, if you have a below ground system, or if you want to connect it into interior plumbing, for example, for flushing a toilet, those require permits. And it's always important to remember that the rainwater, without being treated, is non-potable water. It's not for drinking. It is solely for using for your plants and your landscape. If you do want some more information, you can check out the California Plumbing Code, Chapter 16. Not to be confused with the Universal Plumbing Code. California, while it takes some of its ideas from the Universal Plumbing Code, California has its own plumbing code that applies for these systems, and it does not agree with the Universal Plumbing Code when it comes to rain barrels. So when you're choosing your system, we're going to talk about, we already kind of talked about roof size and your harvesting potential with those nice equations. We're also going to think about the number of downspouts when we're calculating that roof size and that harvesting potential. But we want to think about our installation space. Do we have enough room for the barrel? We want to make sure we can get past it. We're not blocking any walkways, any, emergency access. And we also want to think about where that rain barrel is in location, to where that water's coming from. How far is it from our downspout? And where's the water going? How far is it from the garden? Where do we want to run the garden to? We also want to think about the drainage or the overflow. Once this barrel is full, where is all of our excess water going to go? And we want to, it's going on our home, so we want to make it look pretty. Some of these systems I'm going to show you, you may not think are the prettiest, but if you're artistic, I'm not. I did not do this. I pulled this picture off the internet. I think it's gorgeous. I wish I could draw like that. But if you're as unartistic as me, you might have an artistic neighbor, or you can try to work with someone else who's a local artist, and they can do some pretty beautiful things on these barrels. You can also just paint it the color of your house so it camouflages it in a little bit. We're also going to look at some different types of barrels that camouflage themselves better than some of these also. So when we're looking at the inflow, we're thinking about how that water is getting into our barrel. So we need to think about if we want all the water from our downspout to go in, like this picture in the top, there's a big pipe going in, all the water coming off that gutter is going straight into the barrel, or if you only want to divert part of it. So this is a really cool diverter in this bottom picture. And instead of cutting your downspout, you drill a hole in the downspout and the water comes down your downspout. It flows into your barrel down that tube. When it's full, it flows back out and fills up that whole tube. And then it kind of goes up and over and back down your original downspout. So that's what we call a partial diverter. And because of the way water flows in a pipe, it actually will flow down the outside more than it'll flow into the center. So you capture most of the water that's coming down that downspout with this type of diverter. But once your tank is full, the rest of the water goes back down the drain where it would have gone anyway. So it's a nice way of saying, I just want to take enough to fill my barrel and I'm going to let the rest continue what it was doing. This is a really nice system for people who already have French drains or already have their downspout connected to a rain garden or some other swale. It is required, of course, to have screening on your inflow. So if you have a full diversion, your screening would go right here. If you have a partial diverter like this one, your screening would go right here. And that is really important. We want to just decrease the pollutants in the system, prevent any mosquitoes from breeding, and it's actually a legal requirement for a rain barrel system in the state of California, for these above reasons, but it is required, so you need to make sure you have that for vector control. The other part of the barrel that we want to think about where that water is going to be going is the overflow. You always want your overflow high up on the barrel, as high as you can get it, because anything above your overflow isn't going to fill with water. So you want to make sure that overflow is as high up on the barrel as you can get it. That overflow also needs screening. It's required for all the same reasons. And it needs to drain on your own property. So, even if you get in a little bit of a dispute with your neighbor, you can't flood them out. You got to make sure it's all the way on your own property. And this is a great way to connect into a rain garden, which we're going to talk about in a little bit. Or you can use it, if you have fruit trees or something else that you can connect it near that are going to be able to soak up the water. If you have an existing French drain or another swale that's going to be able to use the water, making sure that this connects, somewhere on your property where the water is going to soak in is really important. And then that last thing we talked about is, how are you going to use that water? How do you want the output to be? And so you want to think about all of these three sections of the rain barrel when you're deciding where to place it, right? We want to make sure that barrel is placed somewhere that it can take the water in, somewhere that we can route the overflow onto our own property, and somewhere that we can actually route something to use that water. Now, if you love watering with watering cans and you're only putting in, 50 or 100-gallon tank, then you could probably put that anywhere and hike your water around, multiple times. But personally, I am a really big fan of drip irrigation, so I install drip irrigation on most of my systems. Um, this top picture actually has drip irrigation on one side, and the other one is a soaker hose for a redwood tree that was struggling. So it's not quite drip irrigation, but it's very similar. I have a soaker hose wrapped around the tree a couple times, so it gets a good little bit of water. Um, and anytime that you're going to use drip irrigation, you're going to put a filter before it. So you can see in both of these pictures, we have a filter that's in line coming out of the barrel. And that filter you're going to clean regularly. It will get gummed up, especially with pollen. When we get into the pollen seasons, the pollen will get in your rainwater. And the filter is going to filter that out before it's coming through, so you don't have big clumps coming in and clogging up your drip irrigation. So you do have to clean your filter with a baby brush. It's, a dollar store baby brush is great for cleaning filters. Um, if you like hose watering, you can think about if you're going to just do it with gravity fed. If you're going downhill, that's great, or keeping it on level. But if you need to water anything above your water level, your gravity is not going to be working for you. So you may want a small pump. If you decide that you want a small pump that you're going to bring out, you're going to plug in, you're going to use, you're going to unplug it, you're going to put it away, and it's not hardwired into your system, you still don't need a permit. But if you decide that's too much hassle and you want to hardwire a pump in, that's where we get back into permit territory. So I'm a huge fan of the on-demand pumps that you just plug in when you want to use them, and then you can unplug and put them back in your shed until you're ready for them again. One of my other favorite things to do with rain barrels is to run, and that's what this pipe does here, is to just run a line straight into a bioswale or a rain garden. And that way, if I think there's another storm coming on soon and I don't need to water my plants before then, I can drain my tanks into a rain garden, give them time to soak into the ground, and refill my tanks with the next storm coming up. And that's a great way to use that water. So let's put this all together. We talked about the inflow, so we got our water coming in here. We talked about screening. We got screening there. This tank actually has two screens. It's got a leaf eater and then it's got a screen right there as well. We talked about our overflow. It's high up on the barrel here. And we talked about our output down here at the bottom. So we've covered all of those basic parts of the anatomy. There's a couple other things on this picture though. So you'll notice I have strapping on this. So you got straps on the bottom and the top on this barrel. Now strapping is not required. It is, however, something I recommend. It provides earthquake proofing and stability, especially for kids or pets or anything else that might be running or climbing on it. Most of my barrels are installed in public places, schools, churches, public parks. This one's at Gamble Gardens in Palo Alto. So I install straps on all of those just because you never know what might happen in a public space. For your own home, it is something that, it's your option if you choose to install it or not. If you really don't want to do straps, I do recommend squatter tanks that are shorter than they are more round than they are tall. Those are going to be a little bit more stable. This tank, as you can see, is kind of skinny and tall. So especially with earthquakes in the Bay Area, I would worry about something happening and it tipping. And when this tank is full, it weighs over a ton because water is very heavy. which is going to lead me on to my next slide talking about cisterns. Water is very heavy, so when you are getting into larger systems like cisterns, which are over 200-gallon capacity, you really want to think about how you're placing your barrel. And I recommend a concrete pad. The one on the right here had an existing concrete pad. The one on the left, we actually built our own concrete pad for it, which is why it's sized almost perfectly for that barrel. And so the concrete pad gives a level of stability that you're just not able to get with dirt for a larger system. And like I said, the barrel on the right, when it's full, over at 1 ton, the barrel on the left, when it's full, over 2 tons. It's a lot of weight when they're filled with water. And my concern, again, always being an earthquake or other natural event. Cisterns are a great way to capture more water. Your gravity-fed systems will have higher pressure because there's more water in it. And there are other ways, though. If you want that 200-gallon capacity without going such a big cistern, you can do daisy chaining. Daisy chaining is connecting barrels together. They can be connected at the base like this system. This one is connected here at the bottom. You can see the pipe going between them. And what that means is when the water comes in, it flows into the one tank. But because the valves are all open, the water flows between the 2 tanks and they fill simultaneously. So these 2 50-gallon tanks actually provide a 100-gallon system. Again, you get the better pressure for your gravity watering, and you can use multiple barrels to bridge the gap between the downspout and the garden. Most types of barrels can be daisy chained either at the bottom like this or underneath, which we'll see in the next slide, or you can daisy chain them at the top. So what you can do is run them in series. So that would mean that if the water flows into this tank, I would run my overflow from that tank into the next tank. So the first tank would have to fill fully before the second tank would start filling. And you might do that if you want all your water to be in one tank or you want to hook up the tanks for different purposes. Personally, I tend to daisy chain at the bottom so everything fills simultaneously and I get, more even water pressure throughout. So with that same idea, this picture on the left is at a Rastradero Preserve in Palo Alto, and it has 9 or 10 barrels on the system. It's almost 500 gallons. But the downspout that we are connected to is here on this side of the building, and the garden that these barrels feed is around the corner on the other side of the building. So by running the barrels the entire length of the building, we actually bridged the gap from our downspout all the way over to our garden, and we gained a lot of extra capacity with those barrels because each one is 40 to 50 gallons. These are all recycled olive oil barrels, which can be custom painted. Food grade barrels are great. They're only able to be used for food purposes one time by the FDA, because it is regulated to make sure that there's no cross contamination on it, so they can't be used a second time. So a great way to give them another extended life is by taking these retired food grade barrels and turning them into rainwater harvesting systems and rain barrels. On the right, these are blue barrel systems, and these are plumbed underneath, so the pipes come out the bottom. You can buy them through Blue Barrel Systems as a kit or as an individual barrel. Blue Barrel is a company based out of the Bay Area. They now sell nationally, but they started in the Bay Area, to help support the Bay Area drought tolerant landscape needs. And there are pickup places. The closest one would be Hayward to pick up the barrels. The Hayward site has barrels that previously had grain alcohol in them, so they're really nice and clean. Can't get much cleaner than that. You can also buy kits that were rain barrels that were made to be rain barrels. They have never had another life. These are plastic barrels that were designed specifically to be rain barrels. You can get these online or at local hardware stores. Um, there are a lot of different styles. You can get ones that look like hidden rocks. You can get ones that look like an old-fashioned wine barrel. I've seen a lot of funky different ones that have planters in the top. One of the ones I'm seeing online more and more recently are ones similar to this Ivy barrel and this Ivy barrel. And the way they work is this concept of the open downspout going into the lid, and then the water runs down into the lid. I have had a few sites that have chosen to use these, and you will need to replace the screen more regularly than you'll be replacing screens that go like here where they go in between the downspout. Um, Critters tend to get in and scratch at the screens, and because they're directly in the sunlight, the sun will break down the screens faster. So you do have to replace screens a lot more frequently on them and keep an eye on them. Maintaining your barrels is pretty straightforward. The most important thing is to keep your gutters clean twice a year, just because you really don't want a lot of wet debris and gunk getting caught up in your gutters. It makes a lot of weight in there. It can actually tear them off your roof line, do damage to your roof. So it's a good idea to keep them clean anyway, but it's also going to make your whole system function better. You want to check and empty any leaf eaters or screens at least 4 times a year, every 3 months. Clean and empty a first flush diverter if you choose to install one twice a year. Excuse me. This is a great one. This one is actually, this is how it's written in the plumbing code. So this is a legal requirement. You must visually inspect all valves and components at least once a year. So what this translates to is on your own house, as you're walking by your own rain barrel, you should walk by it once a year and make sure it's all there. So hopefully you're walking by it more than once if it's going on your own house. So that should be the easiest legal requirement to meet. Now, these last two are actually not legal requirements. Legally, you never have to drain this system, but I really hope you're using that water after every storm, and at the very least, use it every 5 years. And I've found, because I get a little bit of sediment and silt that kind of builds up in the bottom of the barrels, I get a little like bio slime on the inside of the barrels. Every 5 years or so, when, at getting towards the end of the dry season, when I've run out of water, I'll take a hose and just run it through my barrels and then let that water run into my garden just to flush them out a little bit. But you don't have to do that. I used to do it once a year. I think I missed last year, so it's not a big deal, but I do recommend doing that every 5 years. And, most importantly, just use your rainwater. Definitely get that water into the ground, however you want to use it. We've already talked about ways to use it, but just remember to use it. Don't let it just sit there. It really is great to use it between storms and let it fill up again. Okay. Oops. Oh, I got a good question here, which I missed a little while ago. Sorry about that. Is there a permit required for a solar powered pump? That actually, you've got me. That's the first time I've ever been asked that question, and I don't know. The way the plumbing code is written, it specifically says hooked up to electrical. I mean, technically there is electrical in a solar powered pump, but I don't know where that lies. I'm sorry, this is the first time I've had that question. I think that would be a good one to ask when you're doing the install. You can ask your local city, and chances are they won't know either. But hopefully they'll give you a definitive answer as to whether or not they want you to apply for one. Um, Sorry, I can't answer that one a little bit better. Okay, follow-up question on that. We're gonna go back to pumps for a minute. What kind of portable pump other than a sump pump can be used for watering with a hose? Um, so I've never used a sump pump for this. I've actually, what I use, it's called an on-demand pump. And I believe there's a link for it in the follow-up email for the one that I've used, and if not, I will make sure I send that to Jose to include in the follow-up email. But you can buy it, it's just called like an on-demand pump or an inline on-demand pump, and it just has a hose connection, so it literally threads in on a hose on either side, and then you plug it in to an outlet. It runs as soon as you turn the ball valve and the field senses water, the pump will run, and then as soon as it doesn't sense water, it turns off. And I've used those for these systems, and they're great because I put quick connects on them. They take about 3 seconds to hook up to my tanks, and I use them, and then I disconnect them and I put them back in the shed. Okay. If we don't have any more questions for rain barrels, which we can still take more at the end, then I will move on to rain gardens. I got one more question here. So this is a question about modifying a current downspout to divert water into a tank. So the question is, how can you modify a downspout to divert water in the tank? And that's really a great question because there are different ways. Um, Most of the easiest DIY systems involve the ones we looked at earlier, either cutting the pipe and diverting it fully, which we can see here. So the pipe is cut, the water is fully diverted, and over here on this side, you can see the pipe's cut as well, and it's fully diverted. And then, actually, all of these have full diversions. And then we looked at this one, which was the partial diversion. So instead of cutting the pipe, we just drilled a hole in the downspout to connect it. So this comes with a kit. You just drill the hole and it'll connect into the system, which is how this one's connected. But unfortunately, the downspout is behind this bush, so we can't see it. Okay. There's a question for pictures or links on how to install it. If you buy a kit, it will come with all the instructions for installing the partial diverter. And if almost any barrel you're going to buy is going to come with instructions. If you're going to fully cut your pipe, you're going to have to decide how you're modifying it. My favorite way is a leaf feeder like this, and then running a pipe into the barrel. But any type of barrel is going to have a different type of connection. I got 2 more questions here I'm going to answer before moving on to rain gardens. There's a question about, is there a limit to how much water you can collect? There isn't a limit on how much you can collect because you can refill the barrels multiple times, but that gets into the permitting. If if you're going to go over 5,000 gallons, then yeah, you need a permit. And that's not collecting, if I have a 500-gallon tank and I refill it somehow magically 100 times, or 10 times throughout the year, if I have a 50-gallon tank and I fill it 100 times, that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about the size of the tank itself. So as long as you're only irrigating with drip irrigation, you can go all the way up to 5,000 gallons, which is a huge tank. And then the last question I had was the overall barrel cost. The price of rain barrels has been changing drastically in the last couple of years, as with everything else. Blue barrels go anywhere from $30 to $50 for the barrel. And then the kit can go anywhere from $10 to $30. Um, olive oil barrels like these ones on the left, I have not seen in the last year or so. Prior to that, they were like 15 to $20. But I haven't searched for them recently. So I'm not sure. And then the fancier the barrels get, they get a lot more expensive. Ones like this can be upwards of $100 or more for the ones that look decorative, look like a rock. Um, the Ivy barrels go anywhere from, like, this style barrel can go anywhere from 80 to 150. Same thing with the rain barrel, the earth-minded rain barrel kits. So they do vary drastically based on style, and where you're purchasing them from. So I do recommend definitely doing a little research and comparing prices as you're going to purchase them. The rebates in some cases will fully cover the cost, or in almost all cases will cover a huge percentage of the cost. Their rebates are really, really useful for this. Okay, I'm gonna move on to rain gardens. Um, Rain gardens are designed to capture, store, and infiltrate rainwater. So that means compared to a conventional lawn or garden, rain gardens allow more water to soak into the ground. Typically, they're actually designed with native soil removed or amended. So we're going to look at, that traditional style as well as some less traditional styles of doing rain gardens. Native plants are a great way to have the garden require less maintenance and to provide local habitat for local insects and birds. They are designed to only pond temporarily, so they are not a water feature. They're dry most of the time. In fact, it's really concerning if they pond for more than a day after the rain has stopped. So the traditional rain garden looks a little bit like this. So you've got this dug out area that goes down 12 to 24 inches. And then we have this nice little layering system. At the bottom, we have this drainage rock, which allows the water to kind of pond and fill in and take time to soak into the ground at the bottom. On the next level, we have this bioswale soil. Now, the bioswale soil is this nice, like, sandy soil that's going to allow the water to sink through. It's got some compost in it. And you can mix it in with your natural soil to get a nice mixture so that it functions really well for the plants and for the drainage. Now, on the top layer of a really traditional rain garden, you would find river rocks. Especially for homes that have a lot of pets or small children, you may not want the river rocks for a tripping hazard. So I recommend just using mulch, and you can do mulch on that whole top layer. Even if you really like the river rocks and you decide to go with the river rocks, you're still going to use mulch on your berms, on these raised areas on the side. So you're going to use mulch in the garden either way, but if you want to mulch the entire swale, that low part as well, that's okay. So when you're designing your rain garden, you want to think about the size. You're going to think about your harvesting potential. We're going to use that same equation we used for the rain barrels. You want to think about your soil type and the soil infiltration rate. And you want to think about where you're going to put it. We want to avoid any large existing plants, avoid any large tree roots. These are really good. These are the legal requirements that are really important. We need to be at least 10 feet away from your house and any building, at least 3 feet away from any property line. If you have the space to go 5 feet from the property line, I recommend giving yourself a little extra buffer zone. You want to think about what shape you're going to do your swale, how you're going to do your berms. And you want to think about your material. Like we said on the last slide, river rocks, cobbles may not be the best option for you. You might want to do mulch, or, I really like that dry creek bed look, so I like putting the cobbles in mine. And then you want to choose your native plants. For any of the rain barrel rebates, native plants are required. And Bosca has a really great list, which is going to be in the follow-up resources email. It's this very extensive Excel sheet. It's got a lot of plants on it. If you go over on the different columns, there's one column that says rain garden. You can sort by that column and see all the plants that Bosco recommends for the rain garden. I also have a slide later on that tells some of my favorites. So this rain garden here does not collect water from a roof. This actually collects water from an adjacent bike path. This is in Palo Alto, and the swale part of the garden is right about there. You can't see it because all the native plants have grown up and they're very happy. Prior to installing this rain garden, the city experienced flooding on this bike path regularly. They reached out to us. They said, we have this issue of flooding. And we said, great, we'd really like to get rid of your lawn because, we'd really like to have some nice bird and bee habitat and not have as much irrigated lawn in the park. And so we came together and we were able to install this really wonderful rain garden. In the process of installing it, we discovered there was actually a storm drain here that was impacted and non-functioning because it had been so filled up with debris over the years. So we were able to install the rain garden below the level of that storm drain. And the rain garden is set up that should it ever flood and get pond over 2 inches, it will still flow into that storm drain to prevent the bike path from flooding. But I've gone at a couple different storms and I have not seen that storm drain being used. The rain garden is functioning to hold all the water, which is really a great way of seeing how wonderful, a rain garden can be at swallowing up all this extra water. So when you're sizing your rain garden, Valley Water put together this nice little thing to show you possible garden square footage based on the square footage of the roof area diverted. So that 1,000 square foot roof area that I use in my harvesting potential equations, they think that a 40 square foot rain garden would be sufficient for that. And this is a nice little key you can find on the Valley Water website with the suggested sizes for the rain garden. So we've already covered most of this, but we do need to be at least 10 feet away from your foundation, preferably downhill from the home, at least 3 feet away from any property line. And you want to call 811 and have 811 come out and mark any utilities before you dig. And you want to make sure you're at least 5 feet horizontally and 1 foot vertically away from any utilities. So that includes your water, sewer, electric, and really, really important, stay far, far away from any septic systems if you happen to be on a septic system instead of a sewer system. If your property is sloped, you can actually build up the bottom side of the property like this picture here. So you can see the original slope is that green line. And then they built this nice berm from the excavated soil and packed it in nice. And now you have that 10 to 12 inch depth from that level top part. So this is a less traditional rain garden. This is from the Flows to Bay website for their rebate requirements for the specific rain garden rebate. And you can see it's still 12 to 24 inches deep, but they just filled it with the bioswale soil. So they just amended all the soil. They didn't put in the drainage.
Chris, I think we lost you.
Not sure what happened there.
Oh,
Um, Jose, are we back on?
Yeah, it looks like we're connected still. You gotta love live action webinars. Mhm.
Okay, I'm so sorry about that. I have no idea what just happened.
Mhm.
Okay, so I'm gonna back up just a couple minutes or a couple seconds. Hopefully, I didn't miss too much. So you can do a rain garden. It is completely legitimate to do the rain garden with the bioswale mixture, augmenting your native soil and not doing the crushed rock in the base. I do think long term that that's going to compact and your garden is going to not function as well. And having the crushed rock in the bottom is going to keep your garden functioning really well for a lot longer. Just because it's going to add that extra airspace in the base that the water needs to be able to drain nicely. Okay, we have a couple of native plants. I'm going to talk a little bit about plants and maintaining your garden, and then we'll take some garden questions and any more rain barrel questions as well. Sorry, when everything crashed, my Q&A went away, so I just want to make sure I've got that open. So these are just my favorite plants. I absolutely love putting, bee plant and blue-eyed grass in there. Juncus works really well in the swale. Um, these are just really, I think these are beautiful flowers. These are great native flowers to consider. And these are all on the Bosco list that you're gonna take a look at later. One of the questions I get a lot, and this pertains to both gardening with a rain barrel as well as rain gardens, is can I add edible plants? Everyone wants to have a nice veggie garden. And so the simple question is no, you're not going to put these in the rain garden. You're going to put your native plants in the rain garden. But if you want to put some veggies along the raised area, along the berm on the edges of the garden, or if you want to water some veggies from your rain barrel, you can definitely do your vining veggies that you're going to water at the roots. You can do your bushy berries, your tall and bushy herbs, your rosemary, your artichoke, any of your citrus or any of your trees. Those are all going to be great. I try to avoid using rainwater to water any of my leafy greens or my ground level berries like strawberries, or any root vegetables, your carrots, your beets. The reason for that is uh, it's, well, I've read a lot of research about this and it's very mixed. There are a lot of researchers in Australia that have said they've researched this and there are no toxins that are building up in the water and that they're completely safe to eat. And some of the research in the US differs. I think the big reason is that, especially in the Bay Area, we get forest fires, we get fires that burn things other than forest, and we get chemicals mixed in with that ash. I think about like in 2020, we had those really bad fires and we came out and the sky was orange all day and, we had ash on our cars. And, for me, seeing that, what I'm thinking about is, okay, what's that doing to my roof? And what's that doing to my rain barrel that's connected to my roof? Like all that ash is getting funneled into one location. And, because there's chemicals that are being burnt and that are coming down that as well. You want to make sure that you're just not watering those leafy greens or any vegetables that have a lot of uptake. With that, you want to use that water on things that you're watering at the roots that are not going to have the uptake coming through that are going to filter that out themselves. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about maintenance. You want to, obviously during the dry months, you want to drip irrigate your garden, especially when the plants are young and babies. You want to weed them as needed and, replace your mulch as needed. Any of your mulch on your rain garden should be at least 3 inches thick. So keeping it that thick, it'll break down and compost over time. So you want to replace that as needed. You can get free mulch from any of the arbor companies. You may not get the nicest looking mulch from them or the cleanest mulch. A lot of times, they have a lot of leaves in their mulch. So depending on what type of plants you have in your garden, you may want to ask for mulch that doesn't have any oak leaves or anything that's more acidic in it. to help your garden stay healthier. But arbor companies are happy to drop that off for free. They need to get rid of it anyway. You can also buy really nice clean mulch from companies like Linkso or any of the local garden centers. You can even go to your hardware store and get it in bags. I do recommend avoiding any of the dyed colored stuff that you can buy in bags at your hardware stores. A lot of them will say, dyed with beet juice or naturally dyed. What they don't say is that most of the wood used in those dyed chips comes from pressure treated or other previously used in industry wood, that may have chemicals in it that you don't want to leach into your garden. So trying to get more natural wood mulch is really good for that. You want to repair areas of erosion, anytime you notice them, splash blocks, cobbles below your downspouts or where your buried pipe comes into your garden. Avoid any, chemical pollutants like synthetic herbicides or fertilizers. And, clean your gutters twice a year. And also, if your rain garden is not draining properly, so the rain has stopped and 3 days later you still have a pond in your rain garden, something's not functioning right. So you got to figure out what's going on and fix it. Expand the garden or dig down and see if, if you didn't have any crushed rock in the bottom, maybe your soil has compacted too much now and you need to refresh it. So here's a little breakdown if you want to think about the maintenance for both the barrels and your gardens combined. Just to make it a little less intimidating, I put it by months. And, you even get July off. So unless, a lot of weeds pop up, but I never seem to have weeds in my garden in July. It's just too hot. So you can do just a little bit once a month and kind of trickle it through. They're very low maintenance systems. So any questions you have, and if any of you want to raise your hand at this point to ask a question out loud, we can do that. We can unmute you and you can talk your question. I know sometimes it's hard to type out questions. We do have a couple of people that have called in. Jose or Jessica, do you want to unmute them and see if they have any questions?
Sure. Let's see here.
We've got one hand up now. I'm going to go ahead and unmute Robin. Oops. Sorry about that.
No problem. Can you hear me okay?
Yep, absolutely.
Great. Thanks so much for all this info. I am in a California naturalist class right now, and one of my classmates was talking about how it's important to have plants in your swale that are both like very drought tolerant, but also very wet tolerant. I mean, I hear you've repeated multiple times that it shouldn't be like doing the pond thing for very long. So is it your perspective that like actually mostly it's just drought tolerant plants? You don't have to kind of try to get special plants that are both tolerant of the super wet and super dry.
Yeah, that's a great question. So you really do want to think about it. Like, for example, the ones I have here, I put this slide back up that has the native plants to think about. If you think about like Juncus or the common rush, it likes getting wet. It's okay being wet during the rainy season, but it's also very happy during the summer to be dry. Whereas if you think about like California poppy, like that does not want to get flooded. So you really do want to think about the ones that are okay handling that temporary flooding and are still going to be okay, when it dries out at the end. You don't want to put in something that needs to be in a swamp. You want to put in something that likes that flooding but is okay when it dries out.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
I do have some written questions here. I'm going to read these and answer some of these real quick. Okay, we're going back. We have a follow-up question on the edible plants. So I'm just going to put this slide back up for people to look at. So the first section on the left, these are the ones that go ahead and water them from your rain barrel. Go ahead and put them on your berms. Still not going to put them in our swale. The ones on the left, sorry, on the right-hand column. Whew, I got my right and left, I swear. These are the ones you really don't want to be using your rainwater on. So I'm going to go ahead and leave that up for a minute for people to take a look at that again. I've got a question about someone came in a little bit late and is wondering if there's a recording of this. This is all recorded. It will be available on the Bosco website in a couple of weeks. And I think Jessica and Jose are going to email that out as well. Hopefully, someone nod for me.
That is correct. Yes.
I've got a question about contractors. Where can I find a list of contractors who can install barrels? That's a great question. These websites all have more information. The Flows to Bay website specifically, I know for a fact, has a list of contractors. Greywater Action may have some more information as well, but the Flows to Bay site, I know they have a site specifically for a list of contractors. We've got a couple questions about rebates. I'm gonna let you guys take these. Jose, I'll read it out for you. Is the barrel rebate only once per property, or can a new owner claim to replace old or broken ones with new? Also, is Amazon purchase barrels qualify for rebate?
So what I would tell our customer here is we definitely are here to work with our customers. We would go ahead and like to take a look at your site. I can go ahead and type in my contact information right now. It will also be available when we send over our copy of the today's webinar. And let's see here. Perhaps when that first rain barrel was installed, it did not even go through our rebate process. And so then I don't see why there would be an issue that we would not be able to provide the rebate. But yeah, I just sent over my contact info. Please contact us afterwards. I'll be very happy to look into that. Just need your address, and then we'll take it from there.
Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and unmute one of the call-in people. Hopefully this doesn't surprise you too much. I'm gonna unmute the number ending in 1120 in case you have any questions for us.
Leslie, November 12th, I work like 14, 15, 16.
Okay, you are unmuted, but I can't hear you very well if you're asking a question. Okay, I'm gonna unmute the other call-in person ending in 1303. So is the other-
Hello?
Hi, do you have any questions for us?
I do have a question. Chris, do you have any experience installing rain barrels in multi-unit apartments? Or
So that's
has your experience always been like a single family home or, like a nonprofit type of organization?
So that's a great question. For an apartment complex to install barrels, it is one of those permitting situations. So if you are installing one for the multi-unit dwelling as a whole, that requires a permit. If you are, so this is the gray area on this, is if you live in an apartment and you have a downspout that goes next to your space, your patio, and you want to put a single barrel on your own patio with that, you need written permission from your apartment complex to do that, and then you can reach out and see if your city will require a permit as well. And I've had some cities say no, as long as they have written permission from the apartment complex, it's fine. And I've had other cities come back and say, yes, we need to do a permit. So it really does depend on your city. And I know that's not, not an ideal answer because it is so site specific.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. I'm going to go ahead and mute you again unless you have any other questions.
No more questions. Thank you.
Okay. I've got another person coming up now. I just unmuted you. Farouk? Sorry, you're still muted. There should be a button that says unmute that's available.
Hi, sorry. I just wanted to thank you, Chris and Jose. It was very informative, and I look forward to the recording.
Oh, thank you so much. We appreciate that.
Bye-bye.
So I have two more things that'll be part of the handout that I didn't go over today because it's very self-explanatory with the reading them. But there is these two slides will be included with the follow-up email. If you are worried that you have heavily clay soil or that your soil infiltration rate might not be good for a rain garden, these are ways that you can test your soil at home without having to take it anywhere and do a little getting your hands a little dirty and playing with your soil. So these will be included in the follow-up email. Okay, David, you can unmute yourself.
Okay, thank you. I just have a quick question is, where can I get the kit, for divers? The Dow Pi, I need to modify that. Yeah, I still don't have a clear way how to do that yet, but I will do more research myself. But
So
where?
this kit will come if you buy most of the rain barrels will come with the kit for this partial diverter, and they will come with instructions. So that will be included in the kit. And it'll come with the drill that you need. All you'll need is a physical drill, but it'll come with the drill bits that you need to drill the hole into the downspout, and it will come with all your instructions on how to install that.
But the rebate only rebate the the barrel, right? Not the kit, right?
This is a great question for Jose, but my understanding is the rebate includes the plumbing as well as the barrel. So if you buy a barrel that doesn't include that plumbing kit and you have to buy that plumbing kit separately, you can include that in the rebate amount. but the rebate will only cover up to that certain dollar amount. So if the kit brings you over that, it won't be included. But the kit is included in most of them. So if we look at, sorry, I'm going back my slides. So the full kit is included with like the Ivy barrels, the earth-minded barrels include a full kit. Most of the other styles you're gonna find online are going to come with that kit already included.
Do you know how much for the barrel itself? Is it
They vary a lot. The last time I ordered the Earth-minded
okay?
rain station, I got it through Walmart or maybe Home Depot, and I think it was $110 and included the kit.
Okay, so we can buy the barrel and the kit anywhere, right?
Yeah, I would look online. There's a lot of different
Okay,
sites that have them.
anywhere, but and then we just submit to the rebate to get maximum 100 back.
Yeah.
Yeah. What's the website? Oh, I see the website to rebate is in the Q&A. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, and
ACWD.
you can go through your own water district to get the rebate. The Bosco website has the rebate link on it. The Flows to Bay website has the rebate link on it. The Valley
Okay.
Water website, if you're in Santa Clara County, will have the rebate on it. So all of these websites will help you get to the rebates.
Okay. We just need the receipt, right? I think. Of the we just need the receipt, right? Of the we bought the tank or the barrel and the kit.
David?
Yes.
Yeah, for the Alameda County Water District, we do have some additional requirements. We'll require a couple of pictures of the installed barrel, and it needs to be on a level surface. You should be able to show the screening, that it's properly connected to a downspout or a rain chain. We do have some additional details that are required to get the $50 rebate.
Yeah.
You shouldn't have an issue reaching the $50 max per barrel. And again, if the kit is included, it's typically going to be just a one line item, maybe barrel and accessories or whatnot, and definitely would be typically the $50 or more. But yes, we do have requirements as far as sending pictures of it installed to the specifications. And the receipt should clearly call out the barrel size, and the price, and then the quantity of the barrels. And it needs to be 50 gallons or more. But if you go to our website, acwd.org/rebates, you would be able to get the very straightforward instructions as far as what the requirements are. And we're here to work with you. So we want this to be a positive experience for our customers. So if you have any questions, please feel free to contact us, and that's what we're here for. We'll help walk you through the rebate process.
Okay, thank you. Oh, I think I will have to look into that website for more information, detail like you just told me, to make sure that we meet the requirement. Okay.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you, Jose, and Chris. Okay.
Okay. So we did have one more question about the inline pump. The one that I use, that I've used successfully a few times, is manufactured by Flowjet, and And that is um there's different ones that they offer that have different pressures. So, you know, they're really great for watering. I have found that your standard hose spigot, the end part, like the ones that you would like clamp together to turn on, don't give you as much pressure as like a fireman's nozzle where you twist the end. Those tend to be a little bit more pressured. The question was if it would be sufficient for washing a patio or washing a car. Definitely more than enough for washing a car. As far as washing down a patio, I'm not sure. I generally would use a pressure washer anyway, rather than even municipal pressure for a patio. So I'm not sure, if you would really be doing that with with a regular hose, but if you're just rinsing it off, it'd be fine. There's a question here about the rebates. Different organizations do offer a different level of rebates. I know the websites say rebates offered up to $200. The up to $200 is referring to cisterns and larger systems. For a 50-gallon tank, most places offer the $50 rebate. So definitely, go through the Bosco website, go through the rebate process to see what size tank you're looking at and your specific city, county, water district, everything. It's going to be different based on where you live. Different cities have matching rebates and different ones that can offer multiple levels.
All right, so we're coming up on the 8 o'clock mark. Chris, I'd like to extend a very warm thank you very much for your great presentation and all of this wonderful information that you provided to our customers. And unless anybody has any additional questions, we could go ahead and end this webinar right now.
Well, thank you guys so much. It was great to be here.
Thank you, Chris. Thank you everyone for joining on a Wednesday night. We appreciate it.
Thank you, and please do go and check out our rebates page and take advantage of this wonderful rebate opportunity to have your very own rain barrel installed at your home. So thank you again, and everybody have a wonderful night.
Jose, I did want to say one last thing. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
I just realized we may not have covered this. I know the rebate for the rain barrels is done after everything, but I do believe for the lawn be gone, you have to have pre-approval. Is that correct?
that is correct. That is correct.
So just to make sure everyone's really clear on that, if you want to get any of the lawn rebates, don't start tearing out your lawn until you get the approval to do that and get the rebate, and then you'll go through the whole process. If you want to install a barrel, go ahead and buy that barrel, install it, take pictures, and send them in to get the rebate. But they are done very differently.
That is correct. If you are interested in one of our more popular rebate programs, the Lawn Be Gone program, for replacing your lawn, yes, we do have to go through a pre-approval process before construction begins. And once we are all well aligned, we will go ahead and send a customer a notice to proceed. That way, we are all on the same page, and the customer knows what's expected, and we've outlined it, and it could be as positive of an experience as possible for our customers.
Great. Thank you for clarifying.
Thank you. And thanks again, everybody, for coming and spending your Wednesday evening with us. Bye for now.